Hello, David Bayer team. This is Braxton Wood. I'm here to kind of address the three little scenarios that you outlined in your job description to show you kind of just my understanding of Infusionsoft and, hopefully something that can help you guys. So just moving right along, I'm hoping to get this in under 10 minutes like you requested. But your first question, what will you do properly to properly track the original angle that generated the scheduled strategy session? So if I go over to an Infusionsoft campaign that I have built out here for you, here are the four angles. You can see I have a tag for representing each one that goes into a unique sequence. So depending on where they're coming in, they're going to get tagged a trigger that drops them into a unique sequence, and three things are happening here. So I have a tag to indicate the history that they went through that particular sequence. And then doubling up on that, I have a lead source getting set to that particular angle. So in this case, it's angle A as well. And then I'm also applying a note to indicate that they dropped into that particular, they dropped in from that particular angle. Now, this might sound a little redundant, having all these three things to track that, but they each kind of serve a different purpose. Lead sources are pretty obvious, and that I would think it would be the biggest key. I do also apply a tag as kind of a backup to the lead source because I've seen instances where lead sources get overwritten and things like that. So to avoid that, we put a tag on there, but also the tagging kind of lends to better reports and stuff as well. And then also apply a note for individuals on the team in the company that may not be familiar with running searches in the first place. They can look for those notes and see which angle that particular contact came in as well. And then from there, they all feed into a sequence where they will get the free download that they opted in for in the first place. And then there's a tag to trigger the nurture campaign and the webinar invitation. Now, I saw that you are using ClickFunnels for your landing pages on this. So Zapier, my recommendation is using Zapier with ClickFunnels and Infusionsoft because by themselves, ClickFunnels Infusionsoft integration natively breaks all the time. I don't trust it at all. So either use Zapier, or if you would elect to do this, what I actually usually do when it comes to ClickFunnels is I will embed an Infusionsoft web form on a ClickFunnels page, and that eliminates a lot of problems I experience with ClickFunnels all the time. So little nugget there that I just have stumbled upon in the last few years. So there's that process. That's how I would go about it. Another thing, and maybe this, I don't know if this is what you're looking for or not, but considering the nature of what you're describing here, I would also maybe consider using UTM parameters where applicable. That might help with tracking and things as well. You can, capture information that way also. Okay, scenario B. You said part B. What would you suggest can be done with the info we're tracking from leads to take them to another retargeting campaign? So I use 6 divisions tagging methodology, which is this right here. Basically different categories to serve a different purpose when it comes to tagging. So I would identify, people, again, which angle they came from by the history tag that they have. And then, a profile tag would indicate what opt-in what lead magnet they had opted in for. So I leverage that information to first, kind of funnel them into certain retargeting initiatives. But another thing that I would do is, and I don't know if you folks do this, but one thing that we're finding a lot of success with in my current company where I'm employed at is we do send physical mail to people, and then we have our appointment setters or our sales team call those contacts that we send mail to, and it's kind of an in to start a conversation. And because of the nature of the mail we're sending these people, they're already warmed up enough where when we call them, it's not such a long call. It's not such a difficult sales call to have. It's not a difficult conversation to have. So that's one thing that we do. With that being said, maybe you guys aren't capturing addresses and phone numbers where that's possible. And so I would maybe one step before that do some sort of retargeting campaign, either a nurture campaign in Infusionsoft, or maybe it's a different ad set in Facebook where we're trying to give them another offer and in order to send them the offer, we need their phone number or we need their address so that we can send it to them. And then that way we capture their phone and address so that we can kind of do that type of guerrilla marketing with them. So that's how I would go about that. The final scenario mentioned 4 different kind of little questions to it. Excuse me. So how would I notify and remind clients of upcoming group and one-on-one calls? So if I pull this guy up here, that's, perhaps that's once they've reached that part of the funnel, that stage of your process, maybe that's just a series of delay timers and reminder emails leading up to the call, whether it's a one-on-one call or a group call. And that can be, 3 days before, send an email, 2 days before, send an email, 1 day before, send an email, and then, an hour before, send an email. That would be, something of that nature. But also, if you're leveraging something like Plus This or Fix Your Funnel, you could also send text messages leading up to that event, to whatever call it is. And that's just done with a simple HTTP post. And you can do that on timers as well. Do it an hour before the event. Do it a day before the event, that type of thing. So that's how I remind clients of that. Number 2, track attendance to group calls. These calls are interactive when they can ask questions. So there's a couple ways I would track calls, or track attendance rather, is, again, something like Plus This, depending on what webinar system you're using, Zoom or GoToWebinar, something like that. Plus This can apply tags based on attendance, based on I believe it can do it based on how long people are in the meeting, things like that. So that would be one option. Another more rudimentary option would be just use Infusionsoft forms as a way for people to sign into the event, and then it redirects them to where the webinar page is or something like that. So those are 2 ways that I would go about that. Basically, the next one is providing a link for clients to book themselves for their calls. Obviously, that's something like Appointment Core or Schedule Once, Calendly. You just create a funnel, and then, if it's coming to them an email, click here to book your call. Obviously, it'll open up one of those platforms, and the client can self-select from the availability of one of your people that hold their strategy sessions or something to that effect. And then you could also leverage the automation again in Infusionsoft for reminders leading up to those calls, like I mentioned before. So there's that. Last one is to generate a log that tracks client participation on one-on-one calls and group calls. This is one I'm not sure of what you're asking for, if I'm being honest. I'm not sure if you're talking about tracking them through automation in the form of tagging or something like that, or if you're talking about how you would keep notes or something to that effect. So I'm honestly not sure, but if I were to take a stab at it, I would say that can be done through simple tagging. There are systems, I know Plus This has the ability to tag people based on certain engagements and things like that. So that's possible. If you're actually more referring to note taking, especially for one-on-one calls and things of that nature, I use a project management tool that is great for that. And what I love about it is I can integrate it with Infusionsoft to trigger certain things. So for example, if I move it to a call 1 completed status for the strategy session or whatnot, that can trigger certain automations to happen on the Infusionsoft end where they'll get emails or they'll get, whatever information they might need. And I really love it for that. So that's how I would go about that. And I'm not sure if this is within 10 minutes, but that's your list. So I hope that was helpful and that it's kind of what you're looking for. Thanks.